the first part of this is new content. If you attended the KDE user group or the Infinite Campus user group meetings where there was a KDE update, the other content, starting with the ACT data and these slides, is a repeat. So go ahead, jump off. You're not going to offend us unless you want to stick around for questions. There's really no reason to stick around if you've already heard that content. So we did put the new content up towards the beginning to help those of you that need to transition off to something else today. So we've got a few topics here. We are going to go through today very quickly, and I got to get this into a bigger slide because I can't see it. So we are going to first talk about some of the campus premium offerings, the data visualization, some of the Etranscript, and then we've got some reminders on some data quality items. We've already talked about Senate Bill 128, but we'll touch on that again, and then make sure everybody's aware of this announcement of a statewide point of sale system. The other items are here. I'm not going to read them all to you, but those are repeats from the Kentucky user group. So I mentioned earlier when Valerie was presenting the online registration that KDE will continue to pay for online registration and campus learning for 21-22. That's a definite. We're still working towards being able to pay for it for the 2 more years beyond that with ESSER money. A lot of the ESSER money, the KDE set-aside money, was distributed out to districts. So, to that respect, districts do have money to take it on and carry forward those offerings beyond 21-22. I just don't have anything definite to tell you at this point whether the KDE state funding will be available to support it beyond next year. If you do have interest, if you didn't participate in online registration or campus learning last year, most districts did, but if you did not, reach out to Crystal Darnell for campus learning or online registration, Kimberly Walters, to let them know they're interested. Also put a ticket in with campus to let them know that you want that premium product turned on for your district so you can start working with it. There's still time to get ready for the next year, so don't miss the opportunity. If you don't plan on using it, you used it this year and you just for whatever reason decided not to, also put a ticket in for that to let campus know to turn it off, because we do not want to pay for a service that's not being used if we can prevent it. So there is still time to do it, and there's also time to enhance the way you're using it. It was a really quick turnaround that we did online registration and campus learning last year. So some of those tools you were not able to take advantage of, or some additional pleats and things like that would help your district, now's the time to be working on with that. So reach out with questions, campus training, whatever might be needed to be able to move that work forward for you. Data visualization, we still have the data visualization program out there. We do get some feedback from districts, and it's been very well received. As you know, it's kind of got demographic information, which is good summary data for boards, things like that keep you from having to read reports. We have the behavior data, and we also have the attendance tables. Probably not as used as much this year with so much remote learning, but we expect that they'll be picked back up and be used more so next year. We are also working on an equity data visualization, some charts, looking at a risk ratio, calculating equity based on a risk ratio. That work is just starting. So I mention it not because I can tell you a whole lot about exactly what it's going to look like at this point, but I know we've learned so much from our districts as we've introduced the other charts that if you have some good recommendations or things that you really like to see that are more difficult for you to pull out of campus or see on your own, reach out to Kimberly Walters on this. She's our KSIS point of contact on that. She's working with the Office of Teaching and Learning to define what will be available for at least the initial rollout, and then we'll see where we go from there. So you can see, they're going to be touching on a lot of different areas. These are just the ones that are going to be maybe the first place to start. Etranscript training is available. This is the time just to help make sure that your high school counselors are aware of this training. They may have never used Parchment, or you may have new counselors that don't even know that Etranscripts exist. As a reminder, Parchment is our standard transcript for the state. We ask that all districts use electronic transcripts. They're free to all students while they're in school until July 31st after graduation. So we want to make sure that they do know that that's available and that they are getting those transcripts. Colleges really benefit, as well as the students, by being able to process transcripts much faster, much more efficiently when they're electronic versus the paper. So please try to make sure that the parchment process is being used in your district and that the folks that are using it know the best practices on making sure that it gets done well. For kindergarten data quality, some common errors that we've seen and things we're going to ask that you all are looking at is the suffix fields, just making sure that the suffix is not included in the last name field. Birth dates, sometimes a current year gets added instead of the correct birth year. Enrollment type, they should be primary, not secondary enrollments. So that's always been a little bit of confusion on the preschools. When they transfer in, sometimes they transfer in, they were incorrectly entered as a secondary for at that point, or the calendar was flagged as state exclude. We got to make sure that all that information is set up correctly when those kindergartners come in. So make sure there's not duplicate students or combined students. Make sure that the homeroom in a kindergarten code is 703-001. All of these items will help if you can get this correct on the front end. Eliminate some of the work fixing items in the back end. So other data quality errors that we would ask that you try to look for and avoid are teacher information, making sure that primary emails included, making sure there is a primary teacher assigned to the section, to the course, I'm sorry. Enrollment checks, overlapping enrollments, make sure we're not seeing those. And the state exclude checkbox should not be marked on these students or these courses. In addition to the kindergarten, some preschool withdrawal code reminders. The preschool students that withdrew during the year should have an end status as CO1, basically just a close of year. They should not, and this was new last year, and I think we've still gotten some questions about it because some folks missed it. The withdrawal to W17, age 5 immaturity, or parent choices now is reserved only for kindergarten students. So preschool students should be a CO1 if they withdraw. Senate Bill 128 we've touched on a few times today, and there's some links to the Senate bill as well as to the KDE guidance that's gone out on that is really students must demonstrate interest by May 1st. Districts must decide by June 1st if they will offer the program. And then KDE Guidance is linked in this presentation. It was released on April 5th, and it is going to be updated. I think they're expecting another update to go out this week. So that link will be updated with the most recent guidance. There will need to be an IC indicator of student participation in a supplemental year so that can be tracked. Right now, we're thinking a flag. There may need to be 2 flags. There might need to be a flag for students that are K through 11 now, and then another one for returning graduates. Students can still be retained. Nothing has changed in the fact that if a student would otherwise have been retained in any other year and meets the conditions for retaining a student in your district, then they would be retained just as they were in prior years. Any graduating seniors returning for a supplemental year, I mentioned earlier transcripts, the GPA can't change, the graduation date can't change, but the courses can appear on the transcript. So we're going to have to do some manipulation in the system to make sure that happens and works correctly. For students that have graduated, we can't call the data, we can't call dual credits. It's got to be dual enrollment. It's a little bit different, and there's not eligible for dual credit or work ready scholarships. So additional guidance will continue to be updated and will be shared as it becomes available. The Senate Bill 128 is KEYS scholarship. Scott touched on that this morning. There is some limitations on eligibility, but these supplemental students are eligible unless they're graduating senior, basically. If they're graduating senior and come back, they're not going to be eligible for KEYS scholarship, but they may have some remaining eligibility for the I'm talking keys. I'm sorry. I was talking about the Work Ready and dual credit scholarship. So for those programs, the graduating senior would not be eligible. For the keys piece of it, this was not covered earlier in Scott's presentation, but it's really just based on the 1 year base year for grade point averages. So, there's going to have to be some recalculation of annual GPAs for students who repeat a grade. This information is still being worked through, but this is the information that we've been given by KSIS so far. It's not going to be an automated process. This is a 1 year thing where they have the option of a supplemental year just for 21-22, and it's going to impact any student that would have already started high school. So there has been an announcement of a statewide point of sale system for food service. The food service group has sent an email out to school community nutrition team in each of the districts, and they've announced this information that Heartland Mosaic was awarded the contract for food service point of sale system for the state of Kentucky. So a detailed announcement along with some critical surveys that we're going to ask districts to respond to is going to be sent to all food service authorities this week. Dale Collier is the KDE project manager on this, and Tim Cooper is also point of contact on this work. So this is not going to be like everybody goes to a new system, this year. It's going to be a phased approach, but as additional information is available, it will be shared. So from this point on, we've really got some reminder items that were covered at user group sessions. I've got a couple of questions that I'm going to go ahead and address now. Those that one of the things was, where do you sign up for the Etranscript training? I think there was a link on, Kim, are you on? I think there was a link on the slide itself. It's at the Parchment site, but if not, reach out to Kim Burley Walters at education.ky.gov, and she can give you the link. Okay, so can I go over that? I think I just really flubbed up this no dual credit, dual enrollment for returning seniors, please. I'm not saying they can't, all right, if it's under Senate Bill 128, and this has to all start with an if your district opts into a supplemental year. If you have a graduating senior come back and they want to enroll in dual credit, again, it would be called dual enrollment. We're going to have to look at that a little bit differently in the system. Not exactly sure how, but the reason for that is they've already graduated. So, in essence, the post-secondary school is going to look at them as enrolled at the post-secondary school, not as dual enrolled. So they're going to be just basically called, it will be dual enrollment because they're no longer getting credit for it at the high school level because they've already gotten enough credits to graduate. So it's dual enrollment. So they're going to be enrolled both places. They can take additional courses. They may be able to benefit from some type of reduced tuition. I'm not sure. I can't say for sure. But they won't be able to benefit from the dual scholarship program or the Work Ready program. Those program dollars are for students that are high school students, and since they've already graduated, they're not going to be eligible for that. But they could be enrolled at the high school and enrolled in a dual enrollment situation with the post-secondary school taking additional courses. It's one possibility. And again, don't go by me. Just this is all being thought through right now. The guidance that's coming out is the place to really look at for direction, and questions are being raised to KDE Legal and Mickey Ray, who is kind of point on some of this work for KDE to figure out answering some of these more difficult questions on how to handle this.
Dee Dee, this is Lisa. On the question that was asked on Go Soapbox, they specifically said returning seniors. So there's a difference if you're a returning senior who did met graduation requirements and was posted as a graduate versus somebody that hadn't met graduation requirements and comes back another year. So it gets real fuzzy real fast.
So yeah, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that, because if they're if they're grade 12 right now and they're not graduating and they repeat grade 12 again because they need additional they need additional curriculum to be able to meet all the standards, and they are, and they would still be dual credit, and they would still be potentially eligible, depending on what they've taken in the past, for dual credit or work ready. So that's a good clarification. There is a difference between on whether you're returning to 12th grade and haven't graduated, or you're returning to 12th grade after graduation. There is a difference there. All right. So that's all the questions I have right now. I'm going to go ahead and just go through the rest of these updates that we had. Just, you should know that the ACT makeup window is coming to an end. We're past the initial makeup testing windows, but there were some added. So there could be some additional testing that's taken place this week and into May. So, I want to point out to this group, though, that if you're absent on a test date and makeup date previously, that information has been reported to the Office of Assessment and Accountability, that that's the reason why they weren't able to take the test. This year, they're going to pull the information from Infinite Campus and match it against the information that's provided to ACT this summer to determine that eligibility for that exemption. So please make sure your information in Infinite Campus on students that are in attendance and participating is correct, so that this information can be taken care of. All right, Commissioner's Listening Tour. If you've not heard about that, I'd be surprised. It's it's well communicated. It is. There are 9 sessions. There's been a few of them have already taken place, but through April 6th through May 12th, May 6th. I'm sorry. We're encouraging participation from communities, parents, teachers, school and district leaders, to really be involved in this. It's, I've actually not had an opportunity to participate in one yet, but I plan to next week. It's really been, what I've heard is the students have done a great job leading these sessions, and they're breaking up into breakout rooms and Zooms. So please help to encourage this, and hopefully, make your voice heard and participate in one of these sessions. It doesn't have to be the one for your region. You can participate in any one. There's a link on KDE's website to register. You do have to register to be able to get the link to be able to attend. Custom tools. There is some custom tools information in campus, and if you've been used to always going to the KDE list of all the different custom reports and so forth that we've created, and you've switched over to the new look of KDE, you're probably not finding those the way you had before. There is a capability of setting those up for yourself to be able to place those links, and you can have them more than one time. So you're also able to lock your custom placements, but just be careful on that, because if you do lock them, it can only be changed from the back end. A little bit more difficult to unlock it or move it after it's been locked. There is information in campus about this under custom tool placement editor and the new look of campus that can go into a lot more detail on specifics than I can. So check out those links for more detail. House Bill 208 was passed. This is just information. You should be aware that the baseline funding for 2021 will be used for 21-22, but districts have been asked to process the 21-22 growth factor and SAR to have baseline payments for 22 and 23. We do expect to go back to normal at some point. So 22-23 is what we're focused on, and really need to have good data for 21-22 to make that happen. So Josh already went over this morning the NTI starting March 29th. Approval need to be made more than 5 NTI days. If you have to go beyond 5, it might be extending your schedule versus an NTI day. But that has to go to the commissioner for approval. NTI was going to return to the standard 10 days per year for weather, health, or safety in 21-22. And Josh specifically kind of went over some ways that was going to be tracked in campus going forward. Keys in grade 14. This is the first year that we're really looking at grade 14 in keys. We want to make sure that all students are getting the full benefit of KEYS Awards. So if you've got a student that's in grade 14 that has qualifying courses that should be considered, that is going to be something that can be adjusted It is a little bit, it's a manual process, and KDE was going to cover this in their training next week, over the next couple of weeks. So please make sure your district has somebody that is attending the KSIS session. Each of the KSIS coordinators should have gotten this information back in March. So it's probably a good idea to go ahead and check and make sure that somebody will be representing your district at those meetings and be able to share the information on how to make the determination on the grade 4, and especially with Senate Bill 128, I'm sure you'll have some new questions for Kia in regard to KSIS there too. The KTS data exchange, Scott did a good job of going over some of the dual credit reminders today. But when you're looking at the fact that you've got a KTS situation where you've got 2 schools, really make sure that that on the district's site, the dual credit credit indicators are there. The courses pulled from the KTS course catalog don't carry that forward, so that you just really need to work with the CT Center to find which courses are being offered as dual credit and making sure the students are updated correctly, or the courses are updated correctly for the credit to be given. We've mentioned some of this legislation already today. Senate Bill 101 gave the districts an option to take over an ATC into local control. If your district has opted to do that, then there will be some data changes that'll be needed within campus, and there'll be discussion that needs to be happening. We've talked about Senate Bill 128, the option for a supplemental year, House Bill 208, the funding and the NTI rules, and then House Bill 563 for school choice, which will allow students to transfer to a different district or maybe even a private school and take their SEEK money with them for that purpose. That does have a 22-23 school year as an effective date, so more information to come on that. The pandemic EBT program, the round 4 has started. The maximum benefit is $6.82 a day. However, that is adjusted based on the whether the school is virtual, hybrid, or in person. However, you may have a student that has been 100% virtual while your school has been a hybrid or in person, and there is a capability to adjust that. My understanding is CHFS has sent out basically a form where you can fill out and upload information. That seems to be a little bit cumbersome. We're hopeful that the new student participation report is something that could help you with that. If you run that at a student level and look up the student that is in question, it's possible to go ahead and get how much they participated by any of the different categories, remote, virtual, or hybrid, to make the determination on what should be reported to CHFS. If you do have questions, CHFS is the administrator of this program, and this is their 855 number to call them for with questions. School participation data entry. Each school should have updated throughout the year their participation plan. It was a custom tab that was created. Basically, it just had hybrid, in-person, or virtual, and gave like a begin date and end date. And it was, if you were doing a combination of in-person and virtual, you were hybrid. And so it could be hybrid for a really long period of time, or virtual for a very long period of time for most of schools throughout the state, just until recently. Now we've got more in person, but if you're not 100% in person, then you're probably still in a hybrid situation. Data, if you need to verify that data, if it's a district level and you want to verify all the schools have entered that data correctly, you can run the school participation report, and to make sure that that data is correct. This is the pathway to find that report. It's under KDE reports, under school participation plans. Report does provide some highlighted rows to emphasize first the current school plan to make sure that that's still correct. And then it also has some error messages. Consider these they're labeled error messages. Consider them warning messages. You may find that if we're looking at the wrong calendar at a school level, that could be the impact. We did note that some preschool calendars in some schools did kind of mess up some of our warnings that we tried to do. So if the school doesn't have any participation plan, you're going to have an error message. If they have overlapping, where you've got a start date and end date that overlap each other, there's going to be a warning message. Those are the two that definitely are going to be good warning messages that need to be fixed. This last one, error message, will display if the school's plans are less than the total instructional days is designated as school calendar. That's the one that really, consider that a warning one, because if for some reason at the school level we're looking at a preschool calendar, it may flag and it's not right. We can't designate a specific calendar, and it's picking up some of those preschools for some of you. It works at the district level okay. It's just some schools we found the issue. There is a quick reference guide here that will provide additional information and specifics on that report. So the reporting timeline for this, we mentioned earlier that the Legislative Research Commission, Office of Education Accountability, has asked us for a lot of data. This is one of the things that they have interest in. We have provided them the preliminary data extract as of March 15th, but the final data will not be extracted till the end of the school year, so there's still time to make sure that the data is correct. If you do have questions on this, Wendy Newton is the contact for this. You can reach out to her by email. School report card, the financial transparency area of the 2019-20 card has just now opened. It opened April 5th. The district finance officers are being contacted by district support, and they will review as well as inter-school level spending per student data for A1 schools. There are guidance documents available online, and Jesse Carlson is the point of contact for this. For 2021, there is going to be a school report card. It was a 2020, 2021 was a school, crazy year, but there will still be a school report card. Timelines are consistent with prior years. June 30th, we'll have the school and demographic and contact data. We really need that verified in open house. Open house is the information. You can go to school and district directory and you can make sure the superintendent's correct. You can make sure the principals are correct for all your schools, make sure the address is correct. If it's not, you can use the DASSER system to make some of those corrections, or people role manager to update the individuals that are principals or superintendents that should show up. The school safety domain, that data will be pulled as of June 30th. So that data needs to be validated and completely, at this through the Safe Schools report. Before then, it will be loaded into the school report card in early July for districts to verify by the end of July. The other data will be updated in July 30th, and it will be loaded into the school report card in early August for district review. So these are areas that we wanted to point out. There are QA reports, there are other reports that are available to help with quality assurance. But if you can put if you can kind of set this up as far as timelines for your review, if you can get this other data listed here reviewed by end of July, your school report card review is going to be a whole lot easier, knowing the data has already been validated. Whoops, I think I missed one. And then I just want, as a reminder, the Department of Education, U.S. Department of Education requires that assessment data be available. So even though, we probably won't have any accountability data, we will have assessment data that will be available in the school report card. It will also showcase participation and how many students actually did test this year, along with the test data. Chronic absenteeism data is also required by the U.S. Department of Education this year. The data has to be calculated and available, but it will not necessarily be inside the school report card. More than likely, we'll have a link because we don't want it to be comparable to completely to prior years, because we're going to calculate it from the student participation report because we don't have the full day, half day, or the attendance that we've had in prior years. So I think I've got through all of my information with a few minutes to spare. I want to make sure I don't look like I have any additional questions. If you do have questions, go ahead and put them in app.gosoapbox.com, and it's KDE data. It's the last time you're going to have to hear me say that today. So the next steps on this, we're going to close out. You will get a survey, and it's very important that you respond to the survey. So if you don't see it in your inbox, look in your clutter, or look in your your trash or anything like that. Just make sure that it did not go somewhere it shouldn't have, because if you do want the ELA credit, it's a whole lot easier just to look for this now, because this survey only stays open for a limited time. We need you to respond to the survey within 30 days. Once you respond, it's pretty much an automated process that you will get the ELA certificate. So you should have that fairly quickly after the survey is completed. the survey is important because part of ELA requires that the validation of the training. So what you're really doing is you're committing the fact that you did participate in today's training. So we need that for our ELA certification to be able to be approved and also be delivered to you. So did I miss anything? Anybody else from the KDE side that wants to add anything before we close out? All right, then I just want to thank everybody for their time today, for their attention to all this important information. We're always available for questions, so don't hesitate to reach out to us. And as of right now, we're looking at beginning of the year training being like July 21st. That's a Wednesday. Don't hold us to that, but if you know that's a bad day for some reason, please reach out and tell us that. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. There's always a lot of things to kind of work around in the summertime. So we're trying to make sure that that date will work for all involved. Thank you, and we'll close out now.